Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulihi. Amma ba'du. I greet our mighty students, guests, those that are listening. Assalamu alaikum wa Ramadan Mubarak. This is the month of Ramadan. What's special about the month is the Qur'an. In it, we fast also. A lot of people put the great emphasis on fasting. But we have fasting as one of the features of Ramadan. But the Qur'an is a major feature of Ramadan. It makes the month, it stands out from all other months. It's the month the Qur'an was revealed. Either all of it, ontologically speaking, came down in the month of Ramadan, or we speak of the partial as the whole. We know the whole Qur'an didn't come up as revelation. It came to over a period of 23 years or more. However, perhaps the first revelation was in the month of Ramadan, and we treat the partial as the whole. Maybe that's the idea. There's a night that's very special in this month of Ramadan. It's called the Night of Power. It's one of the odd nights in the last 10 nights. When do we begin counting the last 10? The last 10. And the odd night in the last 10. Very special night in this month. And then concluding the month of Ramadan. Now outside the month of Ramadan, concluding the month of Ramadan, we have the Eid al-Fitr. And I just heard yesterday someone saying it's $15 for everyone, including the members of the family. We need to take another visit. At that if someone is responsible for their family in terms of income, it's not fair. But we go without thinking. But we have the Eid. And we want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to celebrate the Eid. That's the idea of the sadaqah or the zakat al-fitr. It's not to pay bills. It's not a chance to get money for things. And it could be treated as zakat. It could be treated as sadaqah. If you plan, you want to do things, then we agree upon it as though it's sadaqah. We don't have to, but we will, in order that we have a nice celebration. In this month of Ramadan, we also have teachings of the Qur'an, concentrating on the Qur'an, a month of devotion. And that's what we're doing each morning. We're concentrating on the Qur'an, studying the Qur'an, learning about the Qur'an, putting emphasis on the Qur'an. During this month of Ramadan, every morning, 8 o'clock a.m., all are invited. We're going to be looking at Quranic Arabic with translation, and then we will look at the reflection. The reflection of the verse 2:30, chapter 2, verse 30. And then we're going to take a look at Ilmul Ma'ani. Ilmul Ma'ani is the science of semantics, coming under or a branch of Balagha. Balagha is defined by some as a rhetorical eloquence. Balagha is to bring clarity. Balagha. And then another science or branch of Balagha, Ilmul Bayan. And we're going to look at both today. That's our intentions. To look at Ilmul Ma'ani and Ilmul Bayan, since it's a Saturday. Maybe we can relax more on Saturday. With concluding with the commentary. The commentary is, and the reflection, I call them, or I base them on the Akbarian and the Warithian readings, which I have termed Akbario-Warithian, after Ibn Arabi, the great scholar Ibn Arabi, and the contemporary religious reformer, scriptural reformer of our time, Imam Warith Deen Muhammad. So let's jump right in. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ. Phrase. إِنِّي جَائِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. Phrase. قَالُوا أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُسْفِكُ فِيهَا وَيُسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءَ. Phrase. وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ. When we could say phrase. وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ. This could be one phrase we could treat it, or two. Because we have a verb, this will be a complete thought. نُقَدِّسُ لَكَ. And وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ is a complete thought. قَالَ إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. We could say a phrase, and then we have another. What مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Now, let's treat it as one. Ma is it's two phrases in one. Okay. And when he said, your Lord, and when your Lord said, lil malaikati, to the angels, inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifatan. surely I am making in the earth a Khalifa, a successor, if I do it linguistically. Qalu, they said, Ataj'alu, will you make fiha in it? Man, one who, or who, yufsidu, shed, or corrupt in it. Who corrupts it, brings corruption in it. وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءَ, and sheds blood. وَنَحْنُ, and we nusabbihu, and we glorify. Bihamdika, more than glorify, but I'm just going to do that for now. Perhaps that's what you are familiar with in reading the translation. We glorify bihamdika, your praise. وَنُقَدِّسُ, and we sanctify you. Qala, he said, Inni, surely I, a'lamu, I know, ma, what la ta'lamun, what you do not know. In the reflection, when the Creator, who nourished and guided you to maturity, told the angelic forces in nature, I am continuously shaping and forming a moral force or being that expresses itself through material substance and who will govern the earth. They responded, these angelic forces, will you create one who will stray from moderation and justice, leading to bloodshed like the pouring out of molten essence in tears? We are already immersed in the atmosphere of praise and glorification of you, not associating you with any anthropomorphic figure. Nusabbihu. He said, indeed, I understand all knowledge systems and sciences you do not know. Looking at El Ma'ani first. We open with وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ. The particle wa. Speaking of this wa here, it functions as waw atfi. Waw atfi. The wow of coordination. Coordinating wow. Now, take notes or take a look, go back. I don't expect you to remember, but you will get a lesson on the different functions of these particles. Wow is a conjunction atfun, yes, but its function is linking this thing to the preceding discourse, the verses that came before, about guidance and defiance. It's linking about guidance and defiance. We did 28 yesterday. This is 30. So it's linking. If you notice, at each time we talk about how the verse we're looking at, it links with the previous verse. So here we still have this idea being presented of guidance and defiance, making the story of the human being part of the same argumentative thread rather than a detached narrative. So this wow here is connecting, is atfun, is connecting to the previous verse. This verse is being connected to the previous verse. It's not starting a new theme, let's say. It's not a new theme, it's connecting. So the theme is ongoing to the previous. You want to learn, as I've been saying, and I'll continue through repetition, that's how we will learn. You want to learn how to connect words grammatically. Then you want to learn how to connect phrases. How to connect phrases. Watch the phrases. Then connect verses. And if you study Imam W.D. Muhammad, you will see how he does it, how he's speaking from the Qur'an. You have to find the subject. You have to find the verse. Once you find the verse, you have to look at verses before and verses after. And there, many times, you will find the speech. And within those verses, he's pulling from other parts of the Qur'an. So you have this idea of explaining the Qur'an with the Qur'an. That's the underlying aspect in his teachings. Then he's speaking to a particular audience. When you're studying Imam W.D. Muhammad, think of the audience as he's speaking. It's for a particular audience many times. And you have to understand something about the audience. That's speech 101. When you're giving a speech, you have to have knowledge of your audience. Think of your audience. When we study Muhammad the Prophet, the President of peace be upon him, studying him, think about his audience, the level of thinking, the level of intelligence of the audience as he's speaking. Coming back to Imam W.D. Muhammad, think of him thinking from the Arabic text, like we're doing. As I'm presenting, I'm thinking from the Arabic text. Though using English for explanation, still thinking from the Arabic text, not the English text. There is a similarity in many places, but there's a difference in terms of the logic, the meaning, the subtle details that's not in the English. Certain meanings that's not in the English. So he's thinking from the Arabic text as he's speaking English. So that's an aspect in studying the teachings of Imam W.D. Muhammad. And he's taking these high philosophical ideas and bringing them to a level that his audience can comprehend as he's speaking on a certain level. He's doing all of this in the speech. All of this is occurring. Anytime he leaves the Qur'an in the speech, he gives the hint. But he's speaking from the Qur'an. I could say all the time. That's how good and special he is. And he's covering a large body of knowledge in the Qur'an, the way he's doing it. If, just a note to give, if is used as ismu zamanin. So we have where, coordinating particle. Now we have if. If, it's a ismu zaman. It's a noun of time. Ismu zaman. It's indicating time. And generally speaking, it indicates time in the past. That's how we have learned it. That's what we have learned in the grammar class. Li tasriri. For is used for setting the scene. Taswir, short the picturing. Taswir is surah from the word mean to picture. Now here we are again. We're sitting in the theater, and now the movie is getting ready to start. So this is, you could say, is like the curtains opening to the scene. So is opening to the scene. It's bringing the listener or the audience mentally to that moment now. To that moment. Da-da-da-da. That moment. Rather than just locating it historically. Not just seeing it something of the past bringing forth, but we're getting ready to see in the moment. We're being shown this picture in the moment. Taswir. When you're reading, learn how to make pictures. It will help you remember and comprehend. Then, don't get frozen. When reading scripture, don't get frozen in the picture that you have imagined. It's your imagination. Don't get frozen on that and begin to take that as the reality. It's just a mechanism that we have been created with, imagination, so that we have something to hold as we're observing this imagery. Now you have to interpret the picture. Once you get the picture, now you have to interpret the picture. Some of us, we go to the movies and we take the movie to be real. We take it to be real with no interpretation. Because most of us do not know how to interpret movies. We may make parallels or references to something else, but interpretation, we don't get it. We don't. Most of the common people do not do that. So when it comes to scripture, their imagination draws up a picture from the reading, and then they take the picture to be the reality. So we're setting the scene. This is setting the scene. The speech is attributed specifically to Rabbukat. It's using Rabbukat, not Allah, if you notice. Rabbukat, which is idafatu tashrif. It's a genitive of honoring, of honor or honoring. Wa ta'lif, and endearment. Reminding the prophet and the audience that the same nurturer, Rabb, who cares for them is the one planning humanity's role on earth. They're the same. But in Rabb, we can say Allah, the deity, but when we use the term Rabb, we begin to see Allah in action. Rabb is showing Allah in action. Now, we may give in this scene now. In this scene, we may have a character, a Rabb is a character in the scene. We have Allah in the scene, but Allah is not visible. We see the influence of Allah. The mind knows there's Allah. The mind knows that Allah is this Rabb, but what we have done with our imagination is that we know we can't see Allah. We can't imagine Allah. From time immemorial. This word Allah, as we have said, is so ancient. We don't know where this word comes from. We don't know the etymology of this word, really. Allah. And Allah has always been the unseen deity. The deity, Allah. So when we say Rabb now, Allah is Rabb. The Rabb is Allah. We have to be told that because our imagination has given character identity to Rabb over time. And we see Rabb doing the act of Allah, which is nurturing and with a plan for humanity's role on earth. We see that. So, but what has occurred in the history is that this character Rabb has taken on the anthropomorphic figures. Anthropomorphic figures. I have to say the words correctly. I should have went to school. Anthropomorphic figures have been given to the character Rabb. In over time, seeing this figure as Allah. So in the Jehovah's Witness, they come to my house, I talk to them, I give them time, I talk to them, and in the community I live in, there was a Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall. They had two of them. They still have two. One is in front and one is in back of the road it's on. But anyways, one of them was an Arab. They were Arabs. The Jehovah's Witness, the Kingdom Hall was Arabs. I think they have one that's Russian or something, but this was Arabs. So there was Arabs that come to the house. Now, they have in the readings of Jehovah's Witness, they have this character, Jehovah. In speaking English, you would think this character, Jehovah, is Allah, is the deity, Jehovah. In Christianity, amongst many Christians, they have this character, is Jesus. And many will think Jesus is Allah or the Son of Allah, that character. Now, what has occurred is that Jehovah is not Allah. When you read their material, in Arabic, there is Allah and there is Jehovah. And they're not interchangeable. When you read their writings, they have scholarly writings. Now, when I read close, I began to see that Jehovah, I can understand the problem. Jehovah, we see in Jehovah doing the work, like the Rab. Here, the Rab. It's Rab and Allah is the same. They're the same, but when you give characterization in some type of figure to Rab and say it's Allah, that's where the confusion comes in. Because Rab, yes, Rab is Allah. This is the Qur'an is correcting. It's correcting what has come before in a very gentle, even subtle way, without causing big problems. So I didn't want to cause the Jehovah's Witness a problem. So the next time they come by, they always, do you have a question? I say, yes, I have one question. I want to ask you this question and just think about it very clearly. Is Jehovah Allah? And they said, you know better than that. But in English, our imagination will have a play on us that we would think Jehovah is Allah. Jehovah is not Allah. Jesus is not Allah. Though we see the work, we see Allah's work being done through them, but they are not Allah. They are not associated with Allah. That these characters we have given character to it. We went to the movie and we saw the characters doing this work. We never see Allah. Hope you understand what I'm saying. So now to reach the people, when saying Rab, we're not seeing Allah so much. We're seeing the work of Allah through Rab, using Rab. So we're seeing Allah as the nurturer. We see Allah planning humanity's role in the character, if I can say now, of Rab. Yes. I saw a brother yesterday. I went to break the fast. His name is Rab. That's his name, Rab. And I said, Assalamu alaikum, Rab. Now, he's a Muslim. Now, I could go to some young cats there. I said, like a rob. It's not the same rob. One is rob and one is rob, the one who robs. His friend name is Murder. They get themselves in it. My name is Rob. His name is Murder. Yes, I hope you understand what I'm saying now. I hope you see what we're saying here. So use Rob. We'll have the scene that's unfolding before us. Any, and we know afterwards, if we have questions, we can have questions and comments for discussion. Any jailun fi al-ardi khalifatan. You've heard a lot of lectures, a lot of presentations about Khalifa. So as we're studying this science, Ilm al-Ma'ani and al-Bayan, you may hear things that you haven't heard before. You may hear different things. That's part of studying, and that's part of broadening your scope and understanding of Qur'an. And it helps the reflection on Qur'an becomes even broader, deeper, so forth and so on. So because it's new, don't throw it away. Don't be like the fish that run from the food because they've never seen that kind of food before. It runs to it, then it runs away from it. Then it comes back. The particle inna with the attached pronoun, inni. You have inni here, inni. Inna and ni. You have the attached pronoun I. This ya is an attached pronoun. And then you have inna and the attached pronoun. It becomes inni. This is adatu tawkid. Adatu tawkidin. A particle of emphasis. We know this from the grammar, that inna is a particle of emphasis. Removing doubt about the divine decision and closing the door on any imagined hesitation or negotiation over it. This is the function of inna. We learned the grammar, now the function. Removing any doubt. It's a particle of emphasis. We can say strong, tawkid. But in its function, it's removing doubt about the divine decision and closing the door. When he says, inni ja'ilun, on any imagined hesitation. There's no hesitation. There's really no, what do we call it? Trial and error. It's done right and perfect the first time. Allah does not have to go back and do it again because he messed up. He made a mistake. This particle is showing that. The active noun, ja'ilun. Ja'ilun is an active noun. On your sheet, you see ja'ilun. It's the active noun. Making. I am making. Rather than, and it's using this noun. The active noun, ja'ilun, is used rather than a simple past verb instead of a past tense. When you use a pronoun, the pronoun I, you have inna, but you have the pronoun I, is the noun of inna. And you use a active noun with it, the function of it is lil istimrari. It's a ismu fa'il for, it's used for ongoing and ongoing realization. If you use a verb, the verb can be time sensitive in that moment, in a certain time. But this shows istimrar, meaning it's ongoing. It's an ongoing realization, using the pronoun with the active noun, pointing to a continuous divine pattern of appointing successive generations, how some scholars put it, rather than a one-time act, a one-person, one-time act. So it's not, in this context, in this explanation, a one-time, one-person act. Even though many of us will see this Khalifa is Adam, the one-time, one-person act, Adam. But it's successive generations. The word success is in this word Khalifa. Succession, generations. So in its ongoing, this idea. Questions come up, we can discuss a little more about it and go further and show examples. So the prepositional phrase, fil ardi, is advanced before the object. So the object you will see in Abu Faris. Abu Faris may say that Khalifatan is the object of Ja'ilun. Some of the grammarians, they will say that, looking at the grammar, they will say Ja'ilun is acting like a verb. And it takes the object of Khalifatan. And fil ardi is this prepositional phrase here that's couched between the two. So you will see object of the verb, Khalifatan. And the verb, they will point to Ja'ilun as the verb. Now, fil ardi is preceding the object. It is called taqdeem. Now, we've had this a few times, taqdeem. It is fronting. Taqdeem is fronting, preceding. What is normally delayed. So it's taqdeemul ma, it's the fronting of what is its reality, the delayed reality. It's fronting. It's a delayed reality. Meaning the reality is the Khalifatan. So it's coming before Khalifatan. In the normal speech, perhaps, but we don't speak the language. We don't speak the language. But in spoken language, perhaps, I'd say perhaps, it would read, Inni ja'alun khalifatan fil ardi. The prepositional phrase will come afterwards. But here it comes before in the Quranic speech. A lot of these nuances we're learning in the speech and the purpose and the function of them we're learning now may not have been in the speech that the Arabs had before. And flipping the words around could have been something strange to them. See, to us, we're learning Quranic Arabic, and that's all we know. We don't have another form of Arabic, another speech to compare it with. So it allows, one thing it does, it allows us to learn without baggage. We're not bringing along a previous Arabic language to compare. And sometimes that's good for us. And we would have ideas. When we read like this, we'll give attention to all that we're doing now. This that we're studying, Al-Ma'ani, Al-Bayan, Balagha, it's not something given to the common people throughout the Muslim world. There's not an interest in it. People don't have interest in this. There's not an interest. We discuss it, but I have to keep saying there's not an interest. There's not an interest in studying the Qur'an for comprehension. The greatest interest is still recitation, not going this far. And many of the teachers will say this is too much. But I say it's not too much because you don't have something to compare with. So your mind is more readily to accept what it's receiving. You don't have preconceived thought in terms of Arabic language. The only thing we have to learn to do is divorce ourselves from English translations, being frozen in or stuck on English translations, and trying to rationalize or gather the logic from the English side, not from the Arabic side. When we start thinking from the Arabic side, in this Qur'an and its broadness, then we begin to have ideas that we did not have before. One of the reasons people study foreign languages, as we call them, because some languages will hold ideas, clear, expressed ideas that another language does not hold. The Qur'an holds ideas, elevated ideas, transcending ideas, inspirational ideas that we can get from it that we cannot get from any other language. There's an inspiration that will come from Quranic Arabic, from the language, that does not come from other language, the further we keep going and studying it. Not magically speaking, even though it appears like magic, but scientifically speaking, we're studying this as a science, the science of semantics. We will find ideas that it will convey, that we can't get these ideas in any other language. It doesn't, no other language will inspire us today like Quranic Arabic will inspire us. And there are many non-Muslims who wants to be in control, world dominance, do not want us to be inspired by it. Understand that. And they have set forth a scheme that's working throughout the world. And we have many who, I don't know if it's consciously following, but they're following the scheme. But the great reformer has come to us. We should not fear not following the scheme. We have had our first jihad. Now we're in the second jihad. We were successful in the first jihad to be able to read without any hindrance. To practice this religion in the United States, in America, the same as all other people practice religion. Religious freedom. We have been successful in that jihad. Some of you still fighting. You're fighting ghosts. Now, the second, we're in another jihad. Reading this Qur'an with comprehension. The jihad of self. Nobody's imposing it on you. And nobody is preventing you from having it. Let's continue. So this fronting now. Fil ardi is this fronting. It's coming in advance of the object. Highlighting the function, what is it doing? It's highlighting on the earth, fil ardi, or in the earth, we should say, as the deliberate arena of this vicegerency. Not the heavens, the earth. So it's putting an emphasis on earth. The word Khalifatan is in the indefinite form. We understand the indefinite from the grammar. Tanween, this tanween fatah indicates the indefinite. And all of the Mahdi students, I believe now, about 60, maybe it could be up to 100. You should know in your class now, some of you may not have gotten this far if you're with Mustafa or Hakeem. But in my class, all of you have gotten this far. Those of you who are listening that's not in my class and you're in the system, you will get to this. When you get to this and start learning, it won't be so strange to you. And that way you won't have as much difficulty with it. So this tanween indicates indefinite. It's on your sheet. It's in an indefinite form. That's what you learn. That's what you learn. Now, how is it functioning? Here it carries tankiru, the indefinite of ta'veen. Indefinite of ta'veen. Meaning, suggesting indefinite for aggrandizement, ta'zim. Suggesting a role of immense weight and honor whose full dimensions surpass immediate definition. This tanween is used in this context here, in the context of this phrase, to show the full dimensions. So Khalifa is showing the full dimension of Khalifa, and you have the tanween fatah, which we may argue that it is not so much the object of the noun ja'ilun. Perhaps the verb has been dropped. Inni ja'ilun fil ard is a complete thought. But Khalifatan is here in the accusative where the verb is omitted in order to bring attention, exclusive attention to this idea of Khalifatan. It's like without any added word that could cause any confusion in the idea. So sometimes it's dropped. Khalifatan. And in doing so, and putting it in tanween, in the tanween and in the accusative, it's bringing about more than what the linguistic meaning gives. It's giving a full dimension which surpasses the linguistic definition of successor. So it contains more than just successor in it, this idea. And using tanween fatha brings that about. It forces you to pause and reflect and to think. In the Qur'an, it's given that Allah He has given this Qur'an in Arabic in order that we think, use our brain. So it forces you to think. It forces you to reflect. It forces you to pause and think. And this is one of the places. Why is this in tanween fatha? There is no verb. In the plain speech, there should be a verb. Kalu, they said, another phrase, attach alu fiha. The immediate shift to kalu after Allah's declaration. So we have Allah's declaration when he's saying, Inni ja'ilun. Inni ja'ilun. This is the declaration. But right after this declaration is an instance of rapid response from the angels. Because in the scene, he's speaking to the angels. He said to the angels. So there's a rapid response. Musayara'atu. Al-musayara'atu, rapid jawab, a rapid response, which portrays the angels' intense concern and attentiveness to the implications of this new creation. Now, this suggests to us, it implies to us, that if we see this Khalifatan in the figure of Adam, it's suggesting to us that Adam is not the first man. There are people on the earth before this Khalifa arrives. There are people on the earth. And now, from these people is a Khalifa. Allah says, I don't have to have a son. I can just take from what I have already created. So he doesn't have to have a son. Like in the scripture, they refer to Adam as the son of Allah. Allah doesn't have to have a son. He can make a Khalifa from what he has already created. And in doing so, somewhere we're going to see, he's bringing about a creation, a new creation, that the angels have not previously witnessed, have seen. There is no model. There is no previous model of this Khalifa that I am making. So they're responding. They're responding to this declaration. The interrogative attached alu is an istifham. Now we have another istifham. This istifham is istikshafi. Istikshafi. Now, you may want to go back. If you're curious and interested, you probably don't remember. We had two istifhams we have talked about with the hamza. And then we have one with kayfa istifham. And it showed the function of each one. Yesterday we had kayfa, how? How, not how do you disbelieve in Allah? How do you do it? It's how in terms of a rebuke with astonishment. Now here we have an istifham, but it's exploratory. It's an exploratory question. It's not a question in denial. Understand that. Because it may appear that they're in denial. But they're not in denial because according to their nature, they can't be in denial. So it's not a question of denial. It's a question of exploratory. Not an objection for rebellion. It's not that type of question. This istifham is istikshafi. It seeks the uncovering of wisdom behind a decision whose broad consequences they can foresee only in part. They can only see part. Based upon what they previously know about this creature. Their description, men yusidu fiha wa yusfiku ad-dima', uses atfun al-khassi. Atfun al-khassi. A conjunction of specification. Ala al-ami. After a general. Specific after the general. Let's take a look to explain. Corruption, corruption is general. So they say, will you make one who corrupts? It's general. The corruption is general. And shedding blood is its most shocking and concrete manifestation. Specific, being specific now. This is general. You're going from the general to the specific. Atfun al-khassi. Here is this wow now. This wow is functioning as an atful al-khassi. Al-am. It's joining the two ideas here, the two phrases, and joining them is giving us an indication of going from general to specific, intensifying the perceived gravity of human wrongdoing when we're being specific now. Start out in general, but then they're attaching their specific to it. What type? Showing a kind of corruption And then when we're looking at al-bayan, we will see even more we will get from this. Repetition of fi'ha. So the repetition of fi'ha, let me go back and show you. He says fi'ha and then fi'ha again. Alu fi'ha man yufsidu fi'ha. Saying it twice. Alu fi'ha man yufsidu fi'ha. So what does this do to the speech? In both phrases, this fee has in both phrases, and it's called tekrar, repetition. Tekrar. Li tasriri, for the picture, for the movie. It's repetition for the movie. Where tahweed, for depiction and for magnification. Fiha. That's the functioning by repeating them. Remember, when we say it twice, it brings about emphasis. Here it brings about magnification to say it twice. We want to make we want to get a very vivid depiction. We're talking about fiha, in the earth. Fiha, and it has magnification. Fixing the image, making it clear. You may have a little snow on your screen. Remember the snow you would get on the screen, and you're trying to get rid of the snow. You want a vivid, you want a nice. You got to fix it. Someone has to stand next to the rabbit ears and move it around while the rest of us watch it to get rid of the snow. So we're using fiha twice to get rid of the snow so we can have a clear, vivid image of the earth as a stage repeatedly marked by disruption and bloodshed. Just the angels bringing this about. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate too much because this is our ninth presentation, and I shouldn't have to say everything, and I want to bring your attention to the various explanations in al-Ma'ani. The pronoun nahnu. So what you get, you know, you have to get something from this, your takeaway. What's going to be your takeaway from all of this? And your imagination. If I have to leave enough for the imagination, enough for your imagination, that I'm not always giving you my imagination. I'll leave enough for you to have your own imagination. The pronoun wa nahnu carries tatmin. Tatmin ma'na el-istihqaqi. This word, it keeps coming up. Istihqaq. So this tatmin is the implying, the implication, or incorporating the meaning of deservedness. Istihqaq. When they're using the pronoun we. This is the function of using this pronoun. Now, we know it's a pronoun, nahnu. And let's see. There is, the pronoun will be a mubtada, and the khabar will be dropped if you look at Abu Faris. Take a look. Now, and this nusabbihu would be a verb acting as the how, the condition. We are such and such nusabbihu. That's the condition of what we are. They're showing in praising you. And in this condition, nukaddisu, like that. It's showing our condition, our state, our makeup. So this nahnu is used without the predicate. So when it's used without the predicate, it's implying or incorporating the meaning of the deservingness. It's what they're saying. Now we're getting the writing. We're not getting the actual speech. In the actual speech, voice intonation would indicate this idea. But now that you're getting the script, and you're getting an explanation of the script, then in your voice of recitation, in your voice of reading the script, you begin to characterize with your imagination this scene. If you take on the character of the angels, and then you would express it when you say we, showing that we are more deserving than this creature, that we is indicating that. It's in the we, without saying we are so-and-so. And they're being very respectful in the discourse. Not in defiance. They're not in defiance, once again, but they're being very humble and respectful in the comparison. Beings already immersed in praise. We're already immersed in praise. Our condition. We are beings, we could say, as the predicate. A being who is immersed in praise are querying why a creature prone to corruption is chosen for this elevated role. So how do you express nahnu in the recitation with rhythm and beauty still there, but showing this because you're feeling it when you're reading it? That's why I promote comprehension before tajweed. You have a period of pronunciation, enunciation, comprehension, and then tajweed. Because in the tajweed, you begin to have your own feelings. Your imagination is playing now. You're playing out this scene in your imagination. Therefore, as you begin to characterize each one, it shows in the recitation. It shows in the reading. You're feeling it. Like if you're doing a reading for an act in a movie. You go to the reading, you read, and you're feeling it. We want you to feel it as you're reading. When we read the Qur'an, we want to feel it. And then as you feel it, you begin to display your own rhythms. Rhythm and beauty. It may not be the same as another person's reading, because it's moving them emotionally, and they're expressing the emotion in different ways. Yes, this is advanced what we're doing for us. The verbs nusabbihu and nukaddisu in the perfect tense denote el-istimrar, This word comes up again. El-urfi. It's habitual. El-urfi, continuity. Istimrar. Now this Khalifa is it shows continuity. But we're already like this, habitually and continuously. But like many, the language is habitual, their acts is habitual. Something comes new to them, now they inquiry. Portraying their glorification and sanctification as an unbroken state rather than occasional acts. That's what it does. When they're using the present tense, it's not occasional. So in this sense, they're even saying it's not even time. It's not time sensitive, meaning that we're doing this right now. It may change later. No, we've been doing this. Our makeup, our condition, our state of being is nukadisu wa nusabbihu. We're doing it. We've been doing it. We will continue. It's a continual act that we're doing, because actually that's our created makeup. The phrase bihamdika, instead of with your name, instead of saying with your name, or similar, is ta'liq al-fi'li. Ta'liqul fi'li. The attachment of the act. Bisifati lit tanbihi, with the description of excitement, tanbih, excitement. Ali had to draw attention to it, tanbih. So it's attaching an act to a specific attribute to draw attention to it, but this attribute is to bring about a certain excitement. When you say bihamdika, instead of saying your name. So we nukaddisu and we nusabbihu, we say bihamdika instead of saying the Rabbi, in my Lord. So it's saying bihamdika, directly focused to Allah's praiseworthiness as the core of their worship. I hope you see how these words are being chosen in the revelation to bring this understanding in the reading, in the concise readings. The construction nukaddisu laka, it employs the lamul istihqaq, al-istihqaq again, where ikhtisas, saying that the lamb, this lamb here now, we know this lamb is a preposition with the pronoun attached. But its function is for showing deservedness, the lamb of deservedness. We deserve. Specifically, an exclusive deserving, expressing that all purification is exclusively and rightfully directed to him. Yes. And we do that. We express that. But here this creature is going to bring corruption and bloodshed. When our whole makeup is having an exclusive nature of praising you, showing your praiseworthiness because you deserve it. And before you have to convince this creature of your praiseworthiness, though you have created them, brought them to existence with no prior model or pattern, yet you still have to convince them of your worthiness to be praised. All praises. That's why we would say all praises are due to Allah. It's in their nature. They can't go outside of it. Qala, he says, responding to their response, Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamuna. The answer is delivered without any prefatory rebuke. An instance of ijazul qasri. A concise ijaz, concise, exclusive response. Qasri. Cut to the chase, as we say. Without any rebuke before the response. A single short clause dismisses all possible objections by referring to everything back to divine encompassing knowledge. A'lamu, inni a'lamu. That's the response. Inni a'lamu. Again, the particle inni functions as tawqeed. The inna tawqeed, emphasis, li taqriri, to the establishment of the true universal reality, universal of all creation. Bringing back the establishment of this reality. This is the functioning of this inna tawqeed, that his knowledge is decisive in this matter, not angelic inference from partial signs that the angels are receiving. So it's hakika, we're talking all of creation, but we're putting it in a characterized movie scene. But the angels are part of the whole creation, not just a part of the creation. The whole creation here is being established. Allah is establishing himself in his knowledge to them. Because there's something, they only have partial signs. They only have partial knowledge. And they're showing it with humility, but thinking that little knowledge, that partial knowledge, is enough for them to bring about the questioning. The verb a'lamu now is the present tense. We see that I in the present tense, form 1, is a fi'lu mudari'un, we know, li dalalati ad-dawami. Here is the function of it now. How is it functioning in this context? It's indicating permanence at the web, ongoing permanence, suggesting that his knowledge is not event-bound, but ongoing, covering future human history and hidden potentials. So this, in the present tense we have learned, the past tense we learned that on your sheet, from the time speaking into the past. The act from the time speaking into the past. That's past tense. It has been completed. As we speak, the act has been completed. The present tense is an act that is currently going on, moving into the future. That's the present tense. So here, Lamo, he's given us in the logic here. His knowledge is not event-bound. It's not going to stop, but ongoing. The present tense is used. Covering future human history and hidden potentials when he says, I know. There's a hidden potential that the angels can't see. They don't know. They can't see. The structure Mele Ta'lemuna is a Jumlatu Qasrin. It's a restrictive construction, phrase or construction, بنفي والاستثناء المقدر with negation. A restrictive construction with negation and exception, and an applied exception. So this ma here is restricting, negation, and there's an applied negation. The negation is not there. Exception. There should be la, mad la, and then the illa. But it's implied. The exception is implied, meaning it's not written. Illa is not written. Effectively meaning, I alone know what you do not. Restricting full comprehension of the appointment to him alone. It's costly. Brief. Short and brief, with an implied exception. I alone. Only I know. Mala ta'lamuna. Only I know. And you do not know. The overall al-Ma'ani coherence. The verses movement from declarative. Let me get this junk out the way. The verses movement from declaration to angelic inquiry to divine closure is a crafted example of harmonious interrelation of phrases, where each utterance answers a rhetorical need raised by the previous one, leading the listener step by step to accept the wisdom of human vicegerency despite its risk. The contrast between the angel's focus on corruption and blood and Allah's reference solely to his knowledge illustrates the juxtaposition of partial perspective on the angel's part and comprehensive encompassing on Allah's part. A central semantic thread in the verse's argument about human destiny and divine wisdom. El Bayan. Let's look at El Bayan. I'm going to take a short break. I'll be right back. We're going to look at El Bayan. Okay. El Bayan. Looking at the verse, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَائِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً قَالُوا أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءَ وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ وَنُقَدِّسُ لك قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون. تشبيه in ilm al-bayan, another branch of Balagha. There are four parts, four principles to al-bayan: al-tashbih, al-istiara, al-majaz, and al-kinaya. We'll look at those four parts in dealing with this verse here. So since it's Saturday, I'm taking a little more time. This is part of our Ramadan sessions, our Ramadan morning sessions. So we'll take our time and go through Al-Bayan. And both of these, this Balagha, we're going to teach on Saturdays at 6 o'clock a.m. We will deal with Al-Bayan, and Sundays at 8 o'clock, Al-Ma'ani. We will look at during the year, during our courses. This is an added part of the Mahdi system. We start with Abata, go through grammar, reading tafsir, reading Qur'an, Arabic dictionaries on the Qur'an, writing our own reflections, and publishing books, and studying Balagha is another feature of Mali. Here, there is no explicit particle of simile. We're building an institution based upon Quranic learning. And we're moving to become a leading institution in this. So here, Tashbih is simile. So there is no explicit particle of simile, like a mithlu, cat, or ka'anna. So we are in the domain of implicit comparison. There is no explicit, so we're in the domain of implicit. The angel's phrase, "Men yufsidu fiha wa yasfiku ad-dima'a," implicitly likens the future Khalifa to a known type, it's implied, of creature, whose defining feature is fasadun, corruption, and safku damin, shedding blood, shedding of blood. Even though that type is not named, it's not given a name. That type of creature is not given a name. This resembles what later authors call tashbihun thamthili. Tashbihun thamthili. Representative tamthili, or say illustrative simile, where a whole imagined scenario is treated like a previously known pattern. It's only implied. By contrast, وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ suggest in the background that the angels see themselves as better, as the better candidate type for that role. They effectively place two images side by side: corrupt, bloodshedding beings versus constantly glorifying beings, inviting a comparison between them, even though the verse does not spell out like or as. This group, bloodshedding group, is like so-and-so, and this glorifying group is like so-and-so. It's implied. And doing so, suggesting one is more qualified for the role than the other. Functionally now, Tashbih here dramatizes the angel's reasoning. It dramatizes the angel's reasoning. They are measuring the proposed Khalifa against their mental image of creatures. Creatures of facade, and against their own self-image of tasbih and taqdees. That's in the simile. The metaphor, in terms of bold wording, as istiara. Several places in the verse can be read through istiara. Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. Lexically, khalifa A successor, one who takes the place of another, linguistically speaking, according to the lexicon, is one who comes after another and takes his place in administration or governance. That's the literal idea that we may get immediately. In context now, it is borrowed. It's the other. It is borrowed. This idea of succession, of one who takes the place of another, is now borrowed to describe a human being as occupying a role on earth that echoes succession. So, one thing, when we're reading Raga, he may give you the literal origin of the meaning of a word. And I always say to you, don't throw it out to go find something you're looking for. Keep that idea, because it's going to be echoed through all of the derivatives of that word you looked up. So succession is echoed, even though it's borrowed for this scene that we're taking a look, this pictorial that we're given. Succession and representation is in it. It's relative to the divine command, but it's being borrowed. This exceeds a bare chronological succession. It's not that. It exceeds that. Exceeds a bare chronological succession and moves into a qualitative. The image of an appointed leader. Surati el-Hakam. El-Musabbet. Munassab. The image of an appointed ruler. Hakam. It's not literally a succession in that sense. So many rhetoricians would classify this as an istiaratun tabaiyya. A tabaiyya derived metaphor in the noun khalifatun for the lofty, divinely commissioned role. It becomes a derived metaphor. وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ. Here, tasbihun, glorification, as declaring transcendence, is literal at the level of wording. At the level of wording is literal, but here it stands for a whole mode of being. See how this goes with some things we mentioned in Al-Ma'ani. Continuous existence in obedience and glorification. It suggests all of this in tasbih, which makes the phrase word like istiara for angels. The angel's entire spiritual state, not just verbal utterance, not just words, not just talk. It gives this metaphor for that. So this force, these angels are forces Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamuna, at the level of, I don't have to keep translating this now, at the level of the entire scene, classic discussions of istiaratin tamthiliyatin, a representative or illustrative metaphor. This scene, and you have a classic discussion here. Apply the structure mirrors the image of a sovereign addressing advisors. This is what we see. This is what we're seeing on the screen of our imagination. We have imagery here. The imagery is just imagery of a sovereign addressing advisors who see only risk, while the sovereign sees hidden benefits. The words themselves are literal, but the composite picture functions the way of istiara tamthiliya, a representative metaphor. Embodying an abstract truth, limited created knowledge versus encompassing divine knowledge in a vivid decision scene. Yes. This whole scene is a metaphor. Don't take the movie to be real, though the dialogue can be taken to be literal, but it's metaphorical. These istiarat, these metaphors give the verse a powerful sense of role and drama. Humans borrow the image of delegated authority. Angels borrow glorification to mean total devotion. The whole dialogue borrows. The whole dialogue borrows the courtroom counsel motif to illustrate limitations in the process of knowing. Beautiful. It's being played on the screen of our imagination. Element jazz, which is broader than istiara, it's figurative. Istiara, metaphor, we use the term metaphor. It's element jazz, we use the term figurative. And we have a note here, I put here, majazul mursal, we're going to see. Majazul mursal refers to a type of figurative usage where a word is used in a non-literal meaning without any resemblance. There's no resemblance between the literal and intended. The literal and intended meanings. It doesn't have a resemblance, but with another relationship it has, such as cause and effect, part and whole, container, contained, etc. But it's not in resemblance, we would say. Clear examples in the verse are of al-majaz or the motorcycle. Loose, non-metaphorical, figurative usage. So we have yasfiku at dima. Mentioning blood stands for the full reality of qatl nufus, the killing of souls, or the killing of persons. And what follows it of social, ijtimaiya, and political was siyasiya consequences, influences. The relation is that of sababin wa musabbabin, cause and effect. It's not, that's the relationship, not resemblance, that makes it majaz on motorcycle. Or juice in wakulin, part and whole. Blood as part, visible sign of killing, that's part. So this is majaz on motorcycle, not because we deny real blood, but because shedding blood is being used to encompass the wider crime of unjust killing and social ruin. So it's used to it could be taken literally, but it's used to convey that wider crime or even facade in the corruption, injustice and corruption and all in the society. So we use that as figurative speech, shedding blood. It may not be literal. Nusabbihu bihamdika wa nukaddisu laka. These two verbs are used not only for particular dhikr phrases, but for a comprehensive state of obedience. Now, you can see how this goes along with ma'ani. Then we learn in ma'ani. We're looking here now. That they're comprehensive state, the created state, where ta'zim and magnification, where tanzih and the transcendence purity, that they do not make any associations with the divine, Allah. And so they function as majaz and mursal as well, a specific devotional act standing for the totality of angelic worship. Look at the speech. And now we're in the science of comparing to bring about even greater clarity. Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifatan. This phrase now, even before taking it as istiara, many mufassirun are those who are the scholars of tafsir, widen it metaphorically to include successive generations. Khalafun ba'da khalfin. Successive generations, not just a single person. The singular is thus used in the sense of the species or the kind. And now our genus, the species or the kind. The kind, and now our genus, the species. Another classic majazim, relation. So, through majaz, the verse compresses whole worlds of meaning into very short phrases. Fasad, corruption, plus shedding blood covers the entire spectrum of human moral failure. While tasbihun and taqdeesun cover the full spectrum of angelic obedience. In the sense of majaz, figurative. Al-kinaya, there are two strong kinayas, implications. Nusabbihu bihamdika wa nukaddisu laka. This is an implication, kinaya, of perfect obedience. Anil kamali et ta'ati, perfect obedience. And purity of essence, when nikah it that. Purity of essence. Because the angels, we're talking about this phrase up here now. The angels are not just informing about two particular acts. They are hinting at their complete worthiness for divine nearness and service. That's what they're implying. Implication, they're implying. Though they're saying this in words, there's an implication of perfection. Man yusidu fiha wa yasfiku ad-dima'a, one who spreads corruption and sheds blood. This kinaya, implication, anil gayati, of extreme gayati zulmi, extreme injustice. Wasu'il akiba, an evil outcome. They do not merely state two actions, but point to, implies, a creature characterized by extreme injustice, destruction of order, and disregard for life. It's not just the act, it's the implication that the angels are bringing out in their response, the dialogue of their response. These kinayat, elusive expressions, allow the angels to speak politely, yet forcefully. They never say this creature will be unworthy and wicked. They don't say that, though they're implying it. But the combination of facade, corruption, and bloodshed, placed opposite their tasbihun, glorification and sanctification, implies exactly that concern. That's the Elebayan. Now, here's the comment on the verse. The angelic forces are purified spirits who possesses knowledge and insight into what lies below them and within themselves, but lack understanding of what lies above them. Everything in the universe has a form before it manifests in the spiritual, emotional, or physical realm. We discussed this yesterday. Seems like I have been here before, one of you said. Thus, everything in your physical existence has a counterpart in your spiritual being, and the spiritual drives the physical. Allah has created only two beings with the capacity to question their form, to dismantle, build upon, or improve themselves, and they are the humans and the jinn. These creatures display different behaviors, expressing themselves through the same material substance. The jinn and the human express themselves through the same material substance and possessing free will, free spirit, and free intelligence. Allah approves of one of these behaviors, one of these creatures, while being indifferent toward the other. He wants only one of them to rule in that material substance. Allah designates the moral being. This is the one he chooses. The moral being known as Khalifa, as the true representation of humanity. Now you see how, to digress for a moment, how we're saying this Khalifa is not necessarily the first physical human body. This Khalifa he's making to rule in the human body that's already existing. The true representation of humanity, embodying the authentic nature he desires for this creature in the earth. Though we could be, and we saw in the sciences, looking at an individual, but yet many of the Mufassirun would say it could be generations, succeeding generations, keeping the idea of Khalifa, and generations rising and falling, rising to the state of Khalifa, falling, and every time one falls, another one rises, right at the heels of the other. Ongoing. Meanwhile, back to the reading, the angelic beings did not know. The angelic beings did not know that human society would bring forth the divine light of Allah's will. That's the comment. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. We will stop here. Assalamu alaikum wa Ramadan Mubarak.